Okay, here I am. Welcome to my channel. I guess the title of this whole thing is Pseudo Hippie. I'm Bill Ryan. I'm in Kennesaw, Georgia, but have been all over the world. I'm 71, an old guy, and really an old hippie, although I always considered myself a pseudo hippie. I guess I'll get to why I would say that at some point. This is just a recapture, a telling of my story, which starts in 1949. I guess what's here are the glimpses of life the way it was in a small town in Florida that I grew up in, and then bounded out across the world, went to college and all that. I ended up here in Kennesaw as a commodity futures broker, which doesn't matter right now. What this is really about is where I was and some of the things I did in my youth and beyond, which included being broke all over the world, being in Afghanistan in 1973 or 4, or Russia at the same time, and living in the Middle East, traveling the world on a thumb, living in Denmark, becoming a shoemaker, working in restaurants, getting a college degree at some point, traveling South America on a thumb for a year, marrying my wonderful Chilean wife that I met, asking her to marry me 6 days after I met her at age 38. Then raising 2 great sons and having a wonderful life. Going from being a hippie at age 30, a full-blown hippie with ponytail, beard, leather shop, in one day, being hired to work at Merrill Lynch Futures in Atlanta as a commodity broker, which I'd never heard of before. Skipping around, I went to college in Virginia at a good school that I barely got into and barely got out of after 5 years. Dropped out at one point. Spent a summer in Europe, really, that in 1969 that changed my life, in that I ran out of money there and ended up working as a dishwasher in a Swiss ski resort in summer. That will be a story in itself. And that little experience of being there and living in a foreign country, poor as shit, but still happy as shit to be there, that changed my life, because I decided with that summer that when and if I ever finished college, which I did, I would set off across the world and live anywhere and take any job anywhere I could that would allow me to get to know that culture and hopefully learn some languages, which I did some of and enjoyed, and just be an international bum. And that's what I did. So that's the primary thing here. So what I'm going to do with this, my sons have persuaded me to do this, is I'm a little bit of a storyteller, is to just go back and talk about where I came from and really what life was like as a kid in the 50s and 60s, and being in college in the 60s, and being a hippie in the 70s. Although the reason I call myself a pseudo hippie is I come from a fairly affluent background and educated, and I never have been a crowd joiner of any sort. I pretty much have spent my life just not caring what anybody thought of me, or how I did it, or how I dressed, or whatever. And I did go through the late 60s, which involved going from being the straightest era there ever was as a small college basketball player where my greatest passion in life was to play basketball. And my body was a temple. I went from being that in 1 year to smoking cigarettes after my sophomore year. I did not smoke, drink, or do anything, but between the end of my sophomore year and the end of my junior year, or the following year, I smoked, I drank, I did every drug there was, almost. And ended up, once I finished college, just setting out from what was then Atlanta, Georgia, where my parents were, across the world with the idea of just going. I bought one-way tickets out of this country. I don't know how many times. I guess they'll get counted in this. And literally have been broke all over this planet. Well, not all over it. I have not yet spent a lot of time fully in Asia, but I have been from Turkey to Afghanistan to Egypt, well, not Egypt today, all over Europe, lived in Denmark, lived or traveled in South America. I've been all over the place. Australia, I don't know how many countries I've been in. Some of them were as a grown man where I had a few bucks in my pocket, but a lot of them were when I was just wandering around with $100 in Turkey. Some of the things that happened, sang in a nightclub in Turkey. I'd take any job. I irrigated citrus. I irrigated cotton. I worked in orchards of pears. I worked in a lot of restaurants and hotels. And with my first job, the one that set me on that course to just travel the world, was in Switzerland, summer of '69, which I guess I'll just keep this brief right now. No, I won't. I'll introduce this. Summer of '69, my college, finished my sophomore year at Washington University. My girlfriend from college was in Paris studying. I found a matchbook cover, had a matchbook cover that said, "Send us $10, we'll give you a job in Europe." Like an idiot, I did that. I got a letter back saying, "You have a job in Link, L-E-N-K, Switzerland. Just show up and you're hired for the summer." So I flew over there, and I'm going to make this actually a longer story, but the end result was I did end up washing dishes for $35 a day, room and board, for a hotel. I was the dishwasher for a small hotel that summer with my girlfriend, and that, as I said, changed my life. I became an international traveler from there on. And I guess since my son told me to keep this intro brief, that's it. I will just say there's going to be a good part of this is what it's like to be an active, athletic, outdoorsy kid in the 50s, and early 60s in a little hick town in Florida, and then college days and all that, drugs, and a lot of traveling. So if you like this, keep watching. I'll be doing more of these. Some will be interesting. Some of them will be, I'm sure, boring. I hope that I don't sit here and do this and think, oh, this is so interesting, and it's not. But anyway, it is what it is. So see you next time. Goodbye.